reality, you learn a lot more from the failure than you learn from the success. In life, there is no such thing as job security. Whatever you learn, whatever you gain, no one can take away from you.
What's the ideal startup that you're looking for at the moment?
So we believe that the world's infrastructure as we stand is not sustainable. As we stand using the current infrastructure, we run out of electricity in, a decade or two.
Welcome back, everyone. Chris Jr. here, Overnight Success. I'm very lucky to have Esther Wong join us in the studio today. We're talking AI. She was, critical to the success of SenseTime, raised over $6 billion in capital over her career, and now starting her venture fund backing AI infrastructure. So you'll learn a little bit less about the chat GPTs of the world and everything that needs to kind of occur in order to have those applications work successfully. And she's incredible. Hope you enjoy the episode.
I was afraid to change job because, the company was sponsoring for my green card, right? And I only have 2 months left before the deadline or something. So it was a very big risky move, and that's why I don't want to switch job. But then the shrink told me, so Esther, in life, there is no such thing as job security. You are your own job security. Whatever you learn, whatever you gain, no one can take away from you, and it's completely transferable. And that was a eureka moment for me.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice.
So we started this company called SenseTime. At one point, it was China's largest AI platform company. And we raised, I was responsible for two things mostly. One is for capital markets or fundraising. So we raised around more than $6 billion US.
That's insane.
And then we actually we actually exited 2 years ago. So we IPO, so that was very nice. But more interesting part was during that time. That was actually 8 years ago when we started this. I was also in charge of what we call the strategic investment team. Mm-hmm. So during the AI 1.0 era, we actually were able to look at a lot of verticals, the AI plus, right? What vertical can AI really be applicable to and commercialize in? So it's very, very early on. We look at what works and what doesn't work. I remember I couldn't sleep that night because it was the first time. Remember, that was almost a decade ago, right? A lot of the transactions in Hong Kong was bringing copy to China models. So you have the eBay of China, you have the Facebook of China, you have so and so and so of China. So there's a lot of model copy from US company into China. I have never heard any startup or any entrepreneur tell me, I want to do something proprietary.
Yeah.
So SenseTime Professor Tang was the first entrepreneur I met that said, we want to build something completely from the ground up, completely proprietary. And I remember I couldn't sleep that night. I was super excited. And I thought, hey, you know what? I really want to be, there's a little bit of David versus Goliath, right? And I felt like I want to be a David in that battle. So to make things even crazier, I was actually pregnant at the time. So under normal circumstances, no women were pregnant and joined the startup, but I actually did and took a 90% pay cut. I said, I really want to do this, so I'm betting everything. I remember I was telling my chairman, my bank chairman at the time, that I'm quitting, and he said, you're going to regret it. In a year or two, when SenseTime fall, you can come back and talk to me, but you will regret it. But, the rest is history.
And then so you have the exit, bit of cash in the bank. Now you're back. Now you want to flip sides to supporting founders. Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's very much in line with what you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what happened previously was we are startup ourselves, right? Because we started, when I joined was 50 people. When I left, it was 5,000 people. So witnessing that journey itself is super exciting. There's lots of ups and downs, especially my skill set previous to SenseTime. It was a lot on the finance side. But I feel like even after a year or two in a startup yourself, I learned way more than 20 years in banking. When I joined was 50 people. When I left, it was 5,000 people. So witnessing that journey itself is super exciting. There's lots of ups and downs, especially my skill set previous to SenseTime. It was a lot on the finance side. But I feel like even after a year or two in a startup yourself, I learned way more than 20 years in banking. Right, the view is very different. The vantage point is very different from within than from outside. So every single letter, figure on the balance sheet means something. What is ROA? What is account payable? There's blood, sweat, and tears behind every single figure, right? That's a kind of understanding and empathy towards founders that I never had before, right? Yeah. And also remember, part of my job was also to invest. So at that time, some companies, upstream, downstream, they also started as well. So I witnessed firsthand, while ourselves being a startup, how other startup struggles, what make them successful and what make them not so successful, right? Sometimes very good people, very good scientists, doesn't translate to very good product, right? Or sometimes very good product doesn't translate to very good sales. So we believe that the world's infrastructure as we stand is not sustainable, right? The whole idea that NVIDIA share price went up, 30 times in the last 5 years is because GPU is very useful when it comes to parallel training, right? So that's why they use it for AI training purposes. But it's not the most optimized solution when it comes to inferencing. So training is, building AI, inferencing is using AI. So think about it, right? The last 3-5 years, you have 20 companies in the world doing training. So you have OpenAI in the US, you have Microsoft, you have, Meta. In China, you have the Baidus of the world and doing the training. So combined, you have like 20 companies doing training. Yeah. And yet it's already around almost 4% of last year's electricity output, right, in AI data center. So imagine when AI emerged from training to inferencing, we have literally 8 billion people on this planet. And everybody uses AI all the time, right? Think about it. Every time when you use your phone, when you take a car, when you even train your robot dog, right? We believe that this is happening very soon. You're using inferencing, 1,000 times a day. The demand for inferencing is literally going to be 1 billion times more than training. Mm-hmm. The world, as we stand, using the current infrastructure, we run out of electricity in, a decade or two. So clearly not sustainable. So that's why, as a fund, if you look at historical context, right, a lot of people ask us, why don't you guys invest in application? The reason that we don't invest in application is just the same reason why 150 years ago, when the steam engine first was invented, we don't invest in a vacuum cleaner. We invest in a better, more sustainable steam engine first. So that's what we do.
Nice. So do you kind of define that as sustainable AI, or where do you?
Yeah, so sustainable AI, AI has to be sustainable in order to be usable, right? So there are a few ways to make AI more sustainable. We divide that into 4 big categories in making the process of AI making more sustainable. So number 1, obviously, from the algorithm perspective, for transformer, it takes a lot of token in, a lot of token out. So are there better ways to make the transformer model more efficient? We believe there is. And in the next 5-10 years, are there going to be more efficient models than transformer? We also believe there is. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is, I mentioned briefly, right, GPU, is it the best solution in the AI inferencing world? We believe that apart from GPU, NVIDIA will still be a mammoth in this space, but inferencing, other hardwares, would other ASIC hardwares come up with better inferencing solution? We believe there is, right? So that's from a hardware perspective. Number 3 is from the overall data center. Mm-hmm. How do we design a better data center? Right now, 80% or 60 to 80% of the data center's power is used for cooling. Yeah. Right, because GPU running is very hot. So can we do it in the water? Can we do it in space? Are there better ways to make the data center itself build more efficiently, right? So that's the third bucket. And last but not least is, if we have to keep the data center on Earth, right, how do we make the power itself more sustainable, so renewable?
Thank you for listening to Overnight Success. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guests and learning about their inspiring journeys. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and share it with your friends. And remember, with hard work and dedication, anything is possible.